Uh, Now let's get a little tactical. Let's say you're a junior watching this, junior year is ending. You need to decide who to ask. How do you choose? Here are the rules. Rule one, ask junior year core academic teachers. Almost every top university wants letters from teachers who taught you in your junior year in a core academic subject. So the core academic subjects are English, math, science, history, or social studies, and a foreign language. Junior year is preferred because it's the most recent, a full year of coursework the admissions officers have visibility into, and because junior year classes are typically the most rigorous before senior year. If you have a teacher who knows you incredibly well, you can sometimes still ask them, but only if you also continue to engage with them through junior year. Sorry, just for a clarification, if you have a teacher who taught you in the sophomore year, you can still ask them. But again, as I mentioned earlier, they should be somebody who you have still been able to engage with and who know you very well. A letter from a teacher who has not seen you in a couple of years or more than a year kind of feels slate stale. That's why it's recommended that you ask your junior year teachers, and also the courses are more rigorous. And the second role that I alluded to a little bit earlier was ask one humanities teacher and one STEM teacher. Top universities want to see that you can think across disciplines. The standard configuration is one letter from an English, history, or foreign language um, teacher and one from a math, science, or computer science teacher. Foreign languages are okay, although I do prefer English and history. This signals that you're a really well-rounded thinker who can write, reason, analyze across multiple models of inquiry. Um, but there are some exceptions with specialized programs at schools like MIT. They have specific guidelines for the kind of recommendations that they want. And then there's some other schools as well. So always check the requirements. But the general rule of thumb is one STEM recommendation letter and one humanities recommendation letter from your junior year teachers. Um, Rule three, pass the enthusiasm test. Now, this is the most overlooked role, and it might be the most important. When you ask a teacher to write a letter, pay very close attention to their reaction. A teacher who says, "Of course, I would love to, let me know what you need," is going to write you a real letter. Then a teacher who says, "Sure, I'll try, just send me the link," is going to write you a competent, polite, but a forgettable letter. A teacher who hesitates might actually be giving you a warning, so listen to them. A reluctant letter is worse than no letter. Um, and it's always do the enthusiasm testing, in my opinion. It's very, very important. And the other rule would be diversify what your letters say. Your two teachers' letter should not really say the same thing about you. If both your English teacher and your history teacher are going to write about your writing, um, this is a wasted opportunity. Try to, ask for letters that would have diversity in there. That's very important. So they talk about different things. When you sit down, you ask yourself, what are the teachers that would bring different things to the table, who would talk about different ways I engage or different parts of my personality. And then And I also want to spend a little bit of time on the Brag Sheet. This is a very, very important part of tonight's webinar. A brag sheet. A brag sheet is a document you give to the recommender to help them write the strongest possible letter on your behalf. Sometimes it's also called a resume. Sorry, a cover letter. It's not a resume. It is not your activities list. It's a curated personal narrative document that gives your teacher the raw material you need. They need to write something specific and memorable for you. And the single document is the difference between a forgettable letter and a great one. And so let me walk you through what exactly should be in the brag sheet. The brag sheet should have specific anecdotes from your class, like, how you engaged in the class, what were the things that you did, you also add the traits that you want the teacher to highlight, the personal qualities you want the teacher to highlight. And a lot of times teachers do not remember the very specific anecdotes. So, you are able to add those very specific anecdotes, and so the teacher kind of can add them to your letter of recommendation. So let's say you want to talk about teamwork. Now you will say, like, there was this project I was working on with my team, and we were on a time crunch, for example. I helped the team break down the task. So you go into the very specific that the teacher can highlight. Let's say you want to talk about integrity. There was a time maybe the teacher gave you some extra points, and then you went back to the teacher and told them about that. That could be an example of integrity. Obviously, there could be more, but I'm just trying to share that, you first have to highlight the specific traits you want the teacher to highlight, and then you add the very specific anecdotes for each trait that you want the teacher to highlight. Asking for a recommendation letter is actually pretty straightforward. You basically just go to the teacher, share with them your intentions, and if they happily agree, then you go back and work on the cover letter, and then you also you share them that cover letter with them once they have verbally agreed to write your recommendation letter, and then you can also share your resume with them. You can also share more details with them, like the kind of major you want to study in college and other things that you think may be useful. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about supplementary letters as well. A lot of schools would allow you to submit a supplementary recommendation letter. You can totally submit a supplementary recommendation letter. But you got to make sure that, they're talking about things that other letters or other parts of your application do not talk about, because in a nutshell, you're taking away time from the admissions officers. So you got to make sure that you're feeding them with some new information about yourself. You're not really sharing the same information that they already know, because in that case, it's just like eating up their time, which they already have very limited to read your application, which is about 8 to 10 or 12 minutes max. For most of the schools, you can submit like 1 or 2 additional recommendation letters. It could be from a research mentor, it could be from an employer, community leader, a coach. And these can actually be of a lot of benefit to you if those recommendation letters are strong and talk about something different about your personality. And finally, the counselor recommendation letter. Almost every top university also requires a letter from your school counselor. This letter is different from a teacher letter. It is meant to contextualize you within your school, to explain your school courses, your rank, your extracurricular impact, the challenges you may have faced, what kind of a community member you are. And the problem is that many counselors, especially at large public schools, may have hundreds of students and they cannot really know each one very well, which is totally okay. Because admissions officers also understand that the counselor does not necessarily have to know very well, know you very well, but they would primarily talk about your choices and talk about your high school context as well, which is pretty important for the admissions officers. And now we're coming towards the closing of our session for today. Let me leave you with 3 things to remember from tonight. 1, the recommendation letters are not a formality. At top university, where every applicant has high grades and high scores, the letters are often what separates one applicant from another, so take them seriously. The second one is really the work of getting a great recommendation letter starts long before you actually ask a teacher. It starts when you are in that classroom. So try to make sure that you show your real intellectual presence instead of being a passive student. Because you have to be active in class and should have shown all those traits that we talked about earlier in order for the teacher to write about those. And finally, the brag sheet or the cover letter, which we talked about earlier, it is the highest leverage tool you have to shape your letters. And sometimes students do not write one, and that's a big problem. You should definitely work on those because those really help teachers to write your recommendation letters and also to personalize your recommendation letters. Because it really gives your teacher the gift of knowing exactly who you are and what story you are trying to tell the admissions officers. And here, finally, I want to thank all of you for being here tonight, and we'll connect with you in our next session. Bye for now.
感谢 Miss Mayer 今天和我们的分享，你有任何的问题都请来直接咨询文美集团。美国文美集团，美国大学申请规划服务第一品牌，20年经验，万博士领衔常春藤顾问团队，中美双顾问模式服务1个学生，按照大学录取学校排名收费，与孩子形成利益共同体。华人老品牌，值得您的信赖。文美集团隆重推出 ACAP 大学专业及职业测评规划管理系统，华人升学机构首创，完美解决华人学生最大升学痛点。人工智能提前锁定大学专业方向，提前2到5年布局申请。有了专业测评系统，孩子的课程规划更清晰，活动更聚焦，文书更有故事感，大学申请更有竞争力。5到11年级学生都可以报名参加测评。文美集团1对1非营利组织成立运营领导力项目，让孩子从参与者变为领导者，真正成长、成人、成才进名校。5到11年级学生均可报名参加。文美集团社会影响力联合国网络义工课程，节省孩子时间，做名校认可的社会影响力，高大上义工。5到11年级学生均可报名参加。感谢大家的收看，我们下次再见。